there are a lot of sources of gossip, innuendo, and misinformation here on the internet. One of the most powerful and one of the most often overlooked is fear. Some people make up stories, they make up explanations for things because they're afraid. In ancient times, people wanted to know what caused thunder, what caused lightning, what caused tornadoes, and they made up explanations that really, if you just think about it carefully, don't make sense, fundamentally cannot make sense. They're neither true nor false, but nonsensical. And something similar goes on here on YouTube in the 21st century with people who want to believe they understand the reasons for and the mechanisms behind censorship here on YouTube. And we are specifically and especially talking about soft censorship, right? Not the outright banning of videos, not the outright deletion of videos, not the outright deletion of your whole channel, because at least you get an email explaining to you what happened and why when that happened. But the curious position you're in as a YouTube content creator when one video is more successful than another, when one video mysteriously never seems to reach its potential audience. And again, the most sympathetic thing I can say to the people who are making up these frankly irrational explanations for how YouTube works, the most sympathetic thing I can say is I understand their delusions are fueled by fear. If you rely on YouTube as your source of income, you're afraid you can't pay your rent. You're afraid you're going to make less money than you're expecting next month. Maybe for a couple of months you made an okay income and now all of a sudden you're not making enough income. Fear. If you're not even on that level, maybe you're not making a dime out of YouTube, or you're someone like me who makes just $100 a month. It's a symbolic amount of money out of YouTube. Nevertheless, you may be afraid about your own wasted efforts. You put a lot of time and effort into a certain video, research, editing, performance, what have you, and you feel like that video mysteriously didn't reach the audience it could have reached or should have reached because of soft censorship, because of what you imagine shadow banning to be. Now, when people talk about this, for the most part, they're not YouTubers. For the most part, it's members of the audience who talk to me about this. And I often challenge them to define precisely what it is they mean by terms like shadow banning. And most of the time they can't do it. They can't actually answer the question, tell you precisely what shadow banning means. Now, they know what it means when your video gets deleted or when your channel gets deleted, the extreme end of YouTube censorship. But the moderate end, they have trouble quantifying. And we can quantify it. I'm going to tell you right now what shadow banning really means. I'm going to compare two videos that were uploaded at about the same time on my channel, and they managed to reach the same number of viewers, the same number of thumbs up. The difference is the number of impressions they received. I'm going to tell you what that means in just a second. So here's a video on my channel that got to 2,300 viewers. And you will notice that it is a very politically provocative title. It's exactly the sort of thing YouTube likes to censor, that YouTube likes to restrict the viewership for, okay? But nevertheless, and we'll talk about that too, it reached 2,306 views. It has 130 thumbs up. There's no evidence that thumbs up matter for this equation, but I'm just mentioning in terms of the audience's level of interest, what have you. But the number of impressions this video with its politically provocative title received was only 12,811. Okay? What are impressions? This is the measure of how many times YouTube advertised your video within its own ecosystem. How much advertising and promotion YouTube is affording your video here on YouTube within YouTube. Now, some of you might say, okay, how can you complain? 12,000, that's a really high number. I'm gonna compare this to a video that didn't have a politically provocative title, and you'll see the difference. So that's one thing. Keep in mind, I have 11,000 subscribers. So when I get this number, even if that seems positive, hey, 12,000 impressions, all of those impressions, all 12,000, could be YouTube advertising my video to people who already are my subscribers, or there's another category, people who haven't subscribed, but people who've already clicked on 2, 3, or 4 of my videos, people who are regular viewers or repeat viewers, even if they're not subscribers. Now, if you're a regular user of YouTube, even if you don't upload, you have probably experienced this. There's a certain channel and you clicked on 3 or 4 of their videos at some point, And then as you navigate the rest of the YouTube ecosystem, as you're in other places on YouTube, YouTube is recommending to you, it's advertising to you new videos from that channel. So that's exactly what we're discussing here, all right? So, I mean, this ain't rocket science. All right, now here is a YouTube video I made with a totally non-politically provocative title, talking about Jenna Marbles, I mean, the video actually is somewhat politically provocative if you watch the whole thing. It's a little bit edgy, a little bit insightful, a little bit disturbing. This reached 2,375 viewers. The view count almost identical, but how many impressions did this video receive? This video received 32,726 impressions. 32,000. So the number of times this video was advertised within the YouTube ecosystem, vastly greater, even though it reached exactly the same number of viewers and we have approximately the same number of thumbs up, all the other factors are the same. And the difference is, one video is politically offensive, I don't know how to put it, politically challenging. It's the kind of content YouTube is discouraging. It's the kind of content YouTube is, if you want to use the term, shadow banning, right? And the other is this sort of safe, namby-pamby commentary content that YouTube implicitly or explicitly encourages us to upload, right? That is the sole difference, and that is the measurable quantitative reality of so-called shadow banning. Now, there's a counter-argument here. The videos did, in effect, reach the same number of viewers. Why and how? Because the video with the provocative title, people cared about it. People shared the link. The good thing about YouTube censorship is that we can overcome it. You can have your own website outside of YouTube. You can have your own blog. Your fans can share the link to your video on Facebook, through Reddit, just through email. They can send the link to friends of theirs who would be interested. Fans sharing the link outside of YouTube is really the lifeblood of YouTube in 2020. That is what you absolutely critically rely on for your success. And the analytics system, most of the time, not always, if you're a creator, it shows you these sources of success. So to give an example, I've done several videos recently talking about the disadvantages of playing video games, why as an adult you should quit playing video games, or why you shouldn't be a video game addict, this type of theme. One of those videos was much more successful than the others. It reached a larger audience. Why? Not because of impressions, not because of shadow banning, not for this issue at all. When you click through the analytics, you could see someone had shared the link to a Reddit group, and 1,000 people or something in that Reddit group were interested and talked about it and clicked on the video and carried on a discussion. Sharing the link with people who aren't interested doesn't help. Sharing it to a random Reddit group doesn't help. But somebody, I don't know who, it wasn't me, shared this link with a group of people who were interested. They discussed it. That overcomes whatever so-called system of shadow banning or censorship is involved here. If people want to see the video, if people want to share the link to the video, it still will reach an audience. Now, again, I have some sympathy for the people who have this fear-based mentality, who are spinning out, one new myth after another about how YouTube censorship works, and how shadow banning, how these other phenomena may be restricting their own career. But I'd really warn you as strongly as I possibly can. This is very similar to a religious mentality. For centuries, educated people in modern Western Europe would interpret what happened with the weather as the will of God. It's mind-blowing if you just read historical nonfiction, if you just read quotations from these people who, when there was hail, they read that as an act of God. When there was a good harvest, that was an act of God. When there was a bad harvest, there was an act of God. Any phenomena, good or bad, could be interpreted as the will of God. And then it's especially disturbing when you get into war and politics. Well, the British defeated the Spanish in this particular battle, so clearly that shows, they say, that God was on their side, that God favors British Protestantism over Spanish Catholicism. Really, zero irony, Historically, people believe this. People talk themselves into this self-justifying way of interpreting the facts of history. But then, of course, if the opposite happens, when the Spanish win a battle or the Spanish win a whole war, they say, well, God is rebuking us because, we were on an ego trip. We needed to be humbled. And they'll find quotations in the Bible about that kind of thing. Any possible empirical experience can be reinterpreted in light of the mythology once you've already committed to believing in the mythology. And the same thing happens here on YouTube. Whether you're talking about Gabbie Hanna, whether you're talking about small YouTubers like me, you can interpret your success as being granted to you by this magical algorithm, and you can interpret your failure as being granted to you by this magical algorithm. And the truth is, the algorithm doesn't exist. The truth is that when you engage in prayer, you're just talking to yourself. I am a content creator. I have some sympathy for my fellow content creators and their complaints in the setting. But let's keep it all the way real. YouTube is just a website. Within the last couple of days, we had a very powerful example of advertiser activism. When suddenly, out of the blue, the Washington Redskins agreed to change the name of the team. It's an overtly racist and offensive name for a sports team. For at least 50 years, people have been saying they should change the team name. Probably it's more than 50 years that enlightened minds have been urging them to change the name. The man who is still the CEO, the lead executive for the sports team, he has said on the record many, many times in recent years that he supports the tradition. He wants to keep the name the same. Do you know why he changed his mind? Because a group of advertisers got together and told him jointly, if you don't change the name of the team, we're canceling all our advertisements, we're canceling all our promotions, we're canceling all sponsorship deals. We're going to walk out if you don't change the name of this team. YouTube faces this same kind of pressure. YouTube has had to face the concerted efforts of advertisers, of advertiser activism, who said to YouTube, either you play by our rules, either you clean up your content, or we are going to leave. Now, there's more than one thing you can do in those negotiations. I'm not saying YouTube made the right decision. Not at all. I think YouTube has made terrible strategic decisions. But the solution here ultimately is to have competitors to YouTube who are going to play the game by different rules. I think there should be some websites that are more censored than YouTube, where they guarantee you that every video on the website is appropriate for children 8 to 11 years old. Like, it's super, super censored so that kids can watch. And I think there should be another competitor to YouTube that allows nudity and frank discussion of sexuality, and another competitor to YouTube that allows political discourse more freely, including footage of war zones, what have you. I think we need more than one solution to this problem. Freedom of speech is not some simple problem that's going to have one policy or one answer. There are going to be many different ways to pose the question and many different ways to come to productive answers. As much as I may have sympathy for my fellow content creators, I also can kind of have sympathy for the devil here. I also can have sympathy for YouTube and realize that if I had been put in their position, I would be struggling to come to some kind of similar compromise. How do you feel about people propounding flat earth theory on YouTube? YouTube has admitted, basically in various kinds of interviews and statements to magazines, what have you, that is an example of something they discourage in this sense. In the sense I just showed you, this is shadow banned, that now propounding crazy conspiracy theories that are actually harmful and scientifically untrue, like flat earth theory, that this is in this sense shadow banned. It's not encouraged, it's not promoted on YouTube anymore because they felt this was getting out of control. How do you feel about YouTube channels that encourage people to eat a 100% meat diet? YouTube channels that say to you, dead serious, that you can be healthy and beautiful and strong, you can lose weight and feel great, eating nothing but ribeye steak, water, and vodka. Yes, I'm thinking of a particular extremely popular YouTube channel that sells and promotes this diet. That diet will literally kill you. Are you going to allow that? Are you going to allow a YouTube channel that tells people they can drink poison? Where do you draw the line? At what point is health advice so dangerous and so unscientific that you, if you were the CEO of YouTube, that you would be willing to shadow ban it. I am not saying that YouTube drew the line in the correct or appropriate place. I'm just saying it's inevitable that somebody has to draw the line. If you want to beat YouTube, if you want to support content creators like me, there's a really simple way to win. Share the links to our videos outside of YouTube, whether that be in Facebook groups, Reddit groups, or by email. If you want more people to see the content you care about, if you want to support the future of this channel, that's all you got to do. Copy and paste the URL, share the link outside of YouTube.